actually pretty good score.
It's not a 3. He's writing the number.
All right.
You don't know which one's yours. And everyone doing it. You're right.
Hola. ¿Cómo está, mi amiga?
Yeah, I know. I put Paul's.
All right, mijos. Let's go ahead and look at 2 things. Mijos. What? Yeah. Next time, right over here. Yeah. So real quick, 2 things. So the last half of the period, so the last 30 minutes. Someone remind me. So when it's around 8 o'clock, sounds like a good time. I'll go over with you guys. You all have, you might all have something a little bit different. At least one. There's 2 different pages, front and back, and I just kind of split them up amongst the teams. So 2 of you will have 1 page, and 2 of you have another page. They're everybody's free response questions for the first of the 2 30-minute questions. And so today we'll go over that at the last half of the period. We'll go over your 30-minute questions. We'll look at everyone's responses to it, at least what I got from the test, from the online test. So hopefully you'll see yours in there. And no one's names, it's all anonymous. So we're looking sort of soberly and objectively about the work that we produce as a class, not just as an individual. And I think this will be important because let's say that you identify your work and you see the score next to it and you think, oh, okay, I didn't do so well. But then you see someone else's score and you see that they've done well. At that point, you can do instant comparisons in ways that I can't really do for you. So I think this is kind of a good thing to see. And what we'll do is we'll go over the scoring guide for this question. And I'll have you guys sort of edit a few of them. You'll read a few of them yourself and see how they match up to your own scoring based on what you think of the rubric. So we'll learn how to score like an AP tester today. And you'll be able to compare the different progress in the class, the different performances. This is your first major test in my class. And it's, again, not something that you just sort of leave to chance in the future. Oh, I got a 2 or a 3. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to write. I'm just going to move on and feel that sort of sense of failure. That's not what the class is about. Just as with the revisions of the multiple choice, so also with the revisions of your free response questions. So when you learn a little bit about the task and the rubric, and then you see how people have been successful in it in the class based solely on what we've done and what you've practiced with and read in chapters, you will be able to revise it yourself and make it better for a better score. So this weekend you will get, so on Friday you'll get not only this free response, but then you'll get your second free response back with just the score on it. Based on what we learned today regarding the first free response question, you can also apply to the rubric score that we'll talk about on Friday. I won't go as in depth with the second question, but I give you the rubric and what I'm expecting, and you can self-grade and revise based on what you need. So what I'm going to do is have the revision score, whatever score you gave me back. If you have not already submitted that revised exam, it'll go in as the original digital score. So you need to make sure you have that done. The second thing is that you'll have a revised. Hold on a second, Ashley. You'll have a revised score of the essays after you complete them this weekend. So this weekend, your major homework is to revise your free response questions so that you can get a better score on them. Those original free response questions will be inputted this week. And so if you want to revise those or change those, you'll have to do that over the weekend. And that way I'll put those new scores in by the following week. So the free response questions shouldn't hurt your grade a tremendous amount. This isn't like a big, huge thing. Taken together, it's kind of a big deal, but separately, if you're doing the revisions of the multiple choice, don't feel like you're going to be, oh, am I going to get an F because I didn't change your free response questions before DF notices? No. If you've been doing all the packets and work, you're doing fine. But we do need to self-reflect on how we take tests. because that's the main assessment of this class, is that AP test. And if you're not thinking about how to understand your weaknesses, you will never be able to improve as a thinker on these topics. And this goes to skills that you should learn for all your classes, not just mine. All of your AP classes, whether you continue with IB or not, you will all probably want to take AP classes in the future. Am I right? Yeah. You all want to be the top-tiered students of the school. You are, because you're already taking AP as freshmen, or you're already so awesome that you're taking it as upperclassmen, and this is the best class on campus, I think, right? Of course it is. It's the best. Don't tell me otherwise. Either way, you guys have a journey ahead of you that needs to be about humility. That is, I have not already earned or attained everything. If I fail at something, that is a good thing, because it means I need to improve and fix something about myself. And that's sort of the thing I want to leave you with all of our tests, is to know these are hard, and life is hard in that sense, but you guys can overcome it if you are able to reflect on it and to take the time to say, what do I need to do in order to fix it for next time? And this is the strategy that we go through even right before the AP test, in which we review all of these chapters. This time, a couple months from now, as we get closer to the AP test, you're going to forget all of this stuff that we're doing right now. It's going to already happen. You've probably already forgotten some stuff. So we're going to need to go back and think, how can we retain or recall that information that we've learned and practiced so much the first semester? And that'll be about your responsibility, keeping yourself disciplined to have study habits that improve over the course of the time. So I'll give you that information next semester, but just kind of know it's about this idea of going back, taking small tests or quizzes, reflecting on the areas of improvement, and targeting my study to the things that are most important to me to study. Because I can give you all sorts of information, do sort of a shotgun thing, or I can have you do team stuff or projects, so you're all kind of separating the information, becoming experts, all this stuff. But if you're not actually reflecting on, what am I forgetting? Maybe I need to go back and look at it. If you're not doing that second process of memorizing and of studying and holding each other accountable, saying, no, that's wrong, kind of go back and forth, do flashcards, all that kind of stuff with your friends, and really care about what your AP score will be, then you're not going to pass. And you won't be as successful as you should be in an AP environment for the next few years. Set the tone now. It makes it that much easier. When I talk to the students, when we go to the LACMA, talk to the AP kids who took it last year, who got 4s and 5s. Talk to them about what they did. Talk to them about how they overcame their own weaknesses and obstacles. So they had those things too. They were afraid that they weren't going to pass. They were afraid. They had all the same fears, and yet they were able to overcome. So you're going to be talking with them and ask them how they did it. And their life now, you can ask them. It's harder, because everything kind of gets harder in life. But they're prepared, and they're appreciative. So talk to them about that. Ashley, about are you referring to your essay or no? Because I know I don't have yours graded.
No, one of the revised and one of the revised test dates.
So the revised, for you, remember we talked about how the multiple choice, you can get it in as soon as you're done with it. So I gave them a week, so I gave you a week. So whatever the week was that I gave it to you, that's what you did.
Okay, I'm trying to remember what it was.
Okay, so if you need the weekend, take the weekend, and then do it Monday. Okay? Yes?
When we revise it, do you want it typed?
No, it doesn't need to be typed, but if I always like things typed. Types is pretty to me.
Cool.
And highlighting changes is always really pretty to me too. Just saying.
You're like, just make recommendations. That's what you have to.
No, for this particular one, I'm just looking for revisions. I don't need all the detailed highlighting. Okay, so that was my spiel. There'll be more to come, more motivational stuff. But think about how you're going to self-select to fix the things that you are weak on. So I just wanted to give that to you because you're about to look at your scores, and you can see many of them are like 1s and 2s and things like that out of 9. Okay, that's what that is. So we'll talk about it. So yeah, so if you felt like you didn't do well on it, then okay. And this isn't a time to brag, nor is it a time to pout. or a time to worry, or a time to be jealous. None of that. This is about data. Cold, hard data. Think of yourself like a robot. An art history robot. Kind of an oxymoron. Okay. Let's go ahead and turn off those La Luz, por favor, and Dominic. La Luces. And then I need to... we really got to get going with this chapter stuff, or else we'll never, ever finish. So, sorry if that's a weird line, but I wanted people to have to... All right. We left off with the Lindisfarne Gospels in 7th century. We looked at the carpet page. We looked at how intricate the tracery in Borbakui, the infusion of the pre-Christian cultures throughout the region of the northern of Europe is now being infused in a sort of Hiberno-Saxon Christian culture and is being developed as part of their own prayer journey and their own Christian expression. Notice that the entirety of it makes a symbol of the cross, which is going to be one of the symbols we discuss tomorrow during our thematic unit. Here is the carpet page, excuse me, not the carpet page, the cover page or the front page of the Gospel of Matthew from the Lindisfarne Gospel in the 7th century. Notice that there is the same kind of sort of the flattening quality that Byzantine, from the Byzantine era. So just kind of consider how it is that there's also an infusion of that Eastern ideals regarding human figures. Now there isn't as many human figures in Hiberno-Saxon works, much like, I guess, at the 7th century there's that, again, worry about iconoclasm just sort of everywhere. But when it comes to the Gospel of Matthew, you have the symbol as a human is important, so he is depicted as such. And sometimes that human depiction is also like an angel as well, so there's that human hybrid as well. Any type of angel, usually connected to the Gospels, represents sort of heraldry. That is an announcement, so this is like the announcement of the Gospel, right, of Jesus. And we have in sort of the ancient English writing here depiction, the description of the inscription of Matthew. And you notice also the sort of attempt at an illusionism, but it's mostly a flattened geometric space. The space itself is very linear in nature, so there's a lot of like sort of straight lines, but they're not really going towards any real vanishing point. So we kind of got a sense that he's sitting, but you notice like there's no shading, there's no line variation that gives us a sense of any type of that Roman illusionism. All that's gone. Okay, so the character doesn't, I mean, he almost looks like a cutout, it's like floating above a seat. You kind of see what I'm talking about there? It just doesn't really look like there's any weight to the character, right? And same with his feet there. There's really no sense of his actual figural elements, so we just are looking at feet, almost like the stylized canons of the ancient world. But again, they're meant to be flattened because it's not about the focus on the human, it's about the symbols of Christianity imposed over the text. Yes?
Just to be clear, a gospel is that like pray and stuff, right?
A gospel is an account of Jesus.
Oh.
So there are 4 gospels in the New Testament. And this is a good point to pause for a second and just to reiterate how important it is. I can't sit and spend, we're not like crash coursing all world religions. That's unfortunately something that you typically learn in world history classes, which some of you have already taken, which you have a major advantage as a result, if you remember all this. Do you remember everything from world history? Most of it. Yeah, of course. So that's good. For the rest of us, we're going to need to maybe do some wiki searches, right? So go and look at what Christianity is about. If you're not familiar, go look at what Islam is about. Go look at what Judaism is about. That is to say, you need to know at least enough of the general stories to construct, and we did a thematic unit, but that's not going to be enough, because I have to talk about the art, not always the... I can't talk about the history of the world and the history of art. Those are 2 different classes. So you're going to need to kind of do some backstory yourself with that, so you learn a little bit more than what we teach. But yes, the Gospels are the 4 accounts of Jesus. That's what that means. It's like good news language. Yes?
These are both the gospel covers.
Yes, these are Gospel covers. And I think this one isn't from Lindisfarne. This one is, I believe, from the book of Kells, but I could be wrong. I know that this one for sure is from the Book of Kells. So let's look at this one. This is another work. The Book of Kells is one of the most complete extant illuminated manuscripts we have. So like the one that's continuing existent. And it's very complete, and that's what makes it so amazing. It is also from Ionia, so it's from this small island up in Scotland, or of Ireland, excuse me. And it's from the 8th century. It's tempera, so it's an egg-based paint, and it's on vellum. And vellum is a stretched, like, lamb skin. So vellum is sort of the first of the pages. To pause for a second and just kind of think about the development of medium for a second, regarding books in general. I know we kind of take for granted the use of books, but there's a major transition that has occurred between the ancient world and now what we're in the Middle Ages. After the fall of the Roman Empire, the development of what are called manuscripts and codices, so like the bounding of manuscripts together in like a binding, like a book, like what we do today, was a new innovation. It was a new technology that they occurred. It's sort of like going from books to Kindles. It was like a new way to experience the same ideas in written word and language, just in a new technology. So all of these pages were bound to books for the first time around the 4th century. So now it's pretty well used. It's 400 years later. But I just wanted to give you a sense too of how books are being developed. Right now they're being used with lambskins, like this vellum. It's like a really thick paper that they're able to produce. Before that, it was all what? Papyrus was like Egypt, right? And a lot of paper was produced in Egypt using papyri, but that wasn't really the standard everywhere. People were using vellum, but there was a different way that they were producing their documents. Think about how ancient world kind of, if someone comes up and they have a speech and they're gonna say it to somebody, what are they gonna do with their the scroll? So everything was bound to scrolls, rolled up in scrolls in the ancient world. So everything was
hear ye.
Yeah, hear ye, right? So when people are trying to pretend to be part of the past, they do scrolls, but for the most part, people are using books at this time. So like books, and this is, in fact, the New Testament was one of the earliest codices that we have. That is the first book that we have. Notice the intricate patterns of the Book of Kells. And this, again, is a Chi Rho Iota page, which is the first 3 letters of Christ's name. It has this continuing, almost fractal pattern of spirals. Fractal meaning it kind of continues on almost with a mathematical precision, moving into that sort of golden spiral kind of thing. We talked about the golden spiral or the golden mean. We saw Donald Duck and the Math Magic Land with Greeks. It's the same kind of structure here. We've got almost a mathematical precision with the same designs being developed from the small to the big with this work here. And this is, again, a good example of that tracery, the Horovacui, that is so characteristic of the Hiberno-Saxon area. I was right, Scotland, Iona and Scotland. It currently resides in Dublin in Ireland. It's not in Scotland, but I suppose it was an island between the two. And it's an exhibit that I've never paid to go see, and I really should.
We should go class.
To go to Ireland just to see the Book of Kells. Yeah, we'll do that. I wouldn't mind going either, but
See the red cows.
I know. I've made a lot of false promises about Europe. I thought I could go, and then I had kids, and it became really hard. I didn't realize I can't go to Europe with kids. I thought, oh yeah, this is gonna be fine, guys. When you turn seniors, I'm gonna get Europe trips, and then I had children, and then I realized, oh, I can't just do whatever I want with children.
So you have to get a babysitter.
No, we take them. I'd want to take them. So that's the thing.
Is she one of those babies
I'm not
that
gonna leave my
cries
kids at home. I'm gonna be
erratically on
something
the
like that.
airplane?
My wife just told me last night, like, if you guys want to do something with 2 weeks, or like, I can't leave the kids. I just feel so bad about it. So I'll have to kind of figure that out.
What about us?
We'll figure that out. What about us? We're your children too. Yeah, you're exactly the same as my children. No, I'm just kidding. I do care about you, and I do care about you guys getting good travel and education, all that. But We'll have to see. I'm not going to make any promises. Although I would love to take you guys to Europe. That would be fantastic. Evangelists are developed in this work here. You see all four of the gospel writers together with their symbols from this section of the book of Kells, this carpet page, in which you see Matthew, you see Mark.
That's the eagle on the right.
That's the eagle in the right corner. So that's John. And I believe that's Luke. But there should be a. Which one of them is the lion? That's really weird.
On the left corner.
The
Left
angel
corner.
is the
Yeah, they all have wings if you notice. So it's not like their wings give it away of what animal it is. I think all of them are a little bit different in nature.
Their wings are weird.
Yeah, they're all angels, so they're all heralded animals. So even though this is a human with wings, it's not just an angel, it's meaning that he's a gospel writer. It's kind
You
of
have
weird,
6 minutes.
nuanced thing. Thank you, Lorraine. All right.
Hey, stop! Go back!
Gosh, no.
That's
I can do what I want. I know what I'm doing. One of the things that characterizes so much of the Middle Ages is the lack of large goods, large monuments. And so it's sort of a breaking of tradition in about the 10th century in which we start getting sort of large-scale, dramatic development, sculptural monuments and that sort of thing. Everything from this time before has been pretty small in the West. It's carrying the traditions of the luxury good items of the pre-Christian communities. But here we have a very large, one of the largest find crosses of this Middle Ages. I think it's about 12 or 15 feet tall. And it's from Ireland. It's the High Cross of Miradach. It's a Gaelic word. And then on it is panels of Christ's story from the Gospels. So from this point in about the 10th century, we start seeing rapid buildup of large-scale things, objects, once again. And this will transition us out of the Hiberno-Saxon world of the Middle Ages into something along the lines of what we call the Carolignian, or the next stage under under King Charlemagne. And we'll talk about how Charlemagne kind of reestablishes or at least attempts to do the Holy Roman Empire again under sort of his Germanic kingdom. But we see sort of the spread of this idea all over, including up in Ireland by the 10th century, that we're trying to kind of build up something grand again. We're not just living these humble, small, middle-aged lifestyles, medieval kind of communities. We want to do something grand. And by the 10th century and the 11th century correspondingly, these next 200 years will be dominated by what historians will call the Romanesque period, which is like trying to be like who? Rome. And so we'll see how they'll build those things up. So I'm just kind of giving you a bit of a trajectory that we're facing. Things are going to get bigger. So that's one of the big things to write down. Things are slowly going to advance and get bigger, more and more Romanesque as people are trying to think of things. For instance, this is a early work of Charlemagne, who was Charles the Great, this person who was attempting to re-establish the Roman Empire within the West. And he's attempting to create an equestrian much like who?
Oh, the Roman.
Which?
The equestrian.
Equestrian, not Augustus.
Caesar?
No, that's Constantinople.
He is a Caesar.
I mean, Constantine.
Julius.
No.
The-
The first one that did a beard, because he was a philosopher.
Ben,
Glory for all.
he wasn't a guy. No,
Marcus
the
Aurelius. Marcus Aurelius.
Come on, like I was gonna remember that.
Wow, you guys forget a lot, don't you?
I remember it was beautiful when it was in gold and not all crusty
That's
like that.
Well, it's crusty. It's crusty. It's a little crusty. Notice though that Charlemagne has still got that sort of that stolid frontality that's lacking much of the naturalism of the Greco-Roman world and the traditions here. We have that sort of stiffness about the character, but we're still trying to develop sort of grander political objects as much as grander religious objects. Beatrice.
For the cross, where is the shaft?
What do you mean?
Yeah, because in the book it says like at the face of the shaft it has a prayer for someone, but I just don't know what that is.
of the cross
Yeah.
on this work.
Not on this one, on the side cross.
This one.
Yeah.
So there's probably a prayer right here. The shaft is the vertical part of the
Oh,
cross.
okay.
Yeah. Dominant.
For the equestrian on the horse, the one that's trying to copy the other one, it looks like an African mark because of like how stiff it
It's
is.
bronze.
Yeah, I mean there is ancient work that all looks like this sort of formal frontality. I wouldn't say it looks African,
Or
but
no, not African, Egyptian.
it look maybe like the diorite in Egyptian. That's probably accurate. It looks similar to those things, for sure. Like the sort of more of an ancient world formula. But we're moving in the direction of advancement. So we're already getting iconography that's connected to Rome, but not with that sort of. Notice the naturalism. You see the naturalism in this work
Yeah.
versus that sort of formal frontality
The
kind
horse
of look.
doesn't even look beautiful.
Yeah. I agree.
Why?
For the equestrian on a horse, he's actually holding a globe, and it said that on the book it was signifying dominating the world.
Right. So Charlemagne and other Christian figures. I think we mentioned this before, but we can remind you that the holding of globes or spheres is that representation of the domination of earth or the domination of the world. It's a monarch symbol, and sometimes you'll have a cross on the top, which can also be held by popes as well, or important figures that represent Christianity as sort of the dominant force in the world, kind of thing. Yes?
Is the horse like on granite? Is that granite there on top of it?
I don't know. It's stand. I don't know if it's supposed to be there or not, or if it's important to know. So what we have here is two different important figures to know about: Pope Leo III and Charles the Great. And what we get with the two of them together is an infusion of political and religious combined together. This will create a time period in the Middle Ages known as the Carolignian period, or it's like the Charlemagne. It's like his name in, I don't know, Latin or something. The Carolignian art time period. So Carolignian art is art within the span of Charlemagne's reign and a couple of, maybe like a century after that. So by about the 9th century, Charlemagne is establishing a presence as an imperial power once again in the West. This is an important development in two ways. Number one, Pope Leo III is kind of developing a political maneuver that will allow him to establish the religious... Oh, that's me. I'm like, who's doing that?
It's 8 o'clock. It's actually 8:01.
Thanks. That'll allow him to establish the supremacy of the church over a new political force. So, imagine this. You are the Bishop of Rome. And already you kind of understand that as the Bishop of Rome, who has his descendancy from the Apostle Peter, that you are an important guy in the church. You have important robes, you have an important little crown and stuff, but you're not as important as you could be. In the past, Roman and Byzantine and other emperors had to ask for forgiveness, and that made you really powerful. So, for instance, if Justinian does something horrible like slaughter 30,000 people in a match, even though he's Christian and he has the Byzantine Empire, he still will have to at some point confess his sins to an important bishop of the time period or the era. And that bolsters the person up. But there's another way I can make myself even more important. That is establish a tradition. And so Pope Leo III establishes a tradition of crowning Charlemagne the first Holy Roman Emperor. Now, it seems like if I were to give Justin all the power of the state, I say, Justin, you are now the king. Who actually has power?
You.
Well, why?
Because
You crowned him.
Yeah, you notice though, I can say Justin has all the power, but I'm the one declaring it from God's voice. And so really I have almost the similar or same amount of power as Charlemagne or Justin in this scenario than he does. So this is an important thing that happens with the church. It establishes itself almost as an equal, if not kind of on top. So there's an interesting sort of balance. In fact, the Bishop of Rome, who will now be called the Pope, that is like the most important figure in the church, the leader of the Church of God, it's said that he was like the sun. The church is like the sun, and the king is like the moon. Right? They're both important for different reasons. They're both equal. But where does the moon get its light? The sun. So just know always that you get your light from the sun, Mr. Justin the King. You always have to get it from me, the teacher. And this is what happens with Leo III and Charlemagne. To say last thing about something about Charlemagne, because I'm already 3 minutes over. Charlemagne was a strong tactical and military leader. But he was illiterate. But he really, really wanted to learn to read and write. He never could write, but he learned to read, and he learned to think, and he has some of the most profound philosophy from this Middle Age, this medieval time period. So he became kind of a thinker. He took his military tactics and tried to apply them in a philosophical way as a redevelopment of Marcus Aurelius in the 9th century. So just know that Carolignian art and this idea is trying to be like Marcus Aurelius, to be like the philosophy of Rome and Greece, kind of reestablish the Holy Roman Empire in a new way, over against the couple hundred years in which we have sort of been without that kind of influence. So he establishes it anew. All right. So that's where we'll stop for now, and we'll look at some Carolingian artwork. Tomorrow Carolingian, and then later Ottonian, which is another of the movements. And then, or we'll do that on Monday. So we'll do that on Monday. Tomorrow we'll do the thematic units. Let's go ahead and turn on the lights now, and we'll now turn it to you guys. I want you to look at these writing pieces as a team. I want you to go ahead and read like 3 of them. 3 of them that had different scores. I don't care which 3. Read the 3 there, just real quick. Based on what you remember of the question, I just want you to get a sense of it now, and just talk amongst yourselves about how you view or value. Like, what do you think just initially here? So go ahead and just talk real quick for 2 minutes after you read your little section there and think, looks like a lot of people are getting this score, or kind of just tell me some of the brainstorming that you have about this document. Yeah.
Literally all it says. You got a whole point. You got 2/3 of it.
Yeah, it'll be about the latest.
Yeah, I know. I like this.